So this is the artery. See how big it is?
Mm-hmm.
It comes all the way to here. Now this is a branch of the artery above it, so they're sitting on top of one another, so it's hard to tell. But what you notice is that this artery is this big, but here it's only that big.
Right.
That's the area that probably needs to be treated to improve the total blood flow to the intestine, to maximize, make sure we have a good blood pressure to perfuse that vein bypass around the aneurysm.
So how long will it be in the hospital?
I would think about 5 to 7 days. When we manipulate the bowel like this, the bowels get lazy. So we usually leave a tube in your nose, keeping your stomach empty for 2 days. If you don't, it's like having a toilet that's backed up and you start to get sick and throw up. By keeping your stomach empty, that doesn't happen. And then when the bowels wake up and start moving, then we take the tube out and then we feed you.
Okay. So when will you want to do this?
Well, I would prefer to do it after the first of the year. I don't think it's an emergency. I think it's more important that we get all of our ducks in a row and that sort of thing. So I would think, the first part of January.
Okay. What do you think?
You're asking me. Well, I mean, you want to feel better, I mean,
Well, I'm just afraid when they say aneurysm.
right? No, I know you have some history with that kind of stuff. You don't want to. I mean, Denise maybe can take your mom, and you won't have that to worry about.
Yeah.
It's scary, I'm sure, but it's better to be proactive than reactive. And something.
What I'd probably recommend is that we have you see one of my colleagues that does GI surgery.
You're not going to do it?
No, well, I'll do the aneurysm part,
Okay.
and I've done GI surgery, but
Okay.
I don't do it too much anymore.
Right.
The guys that do. In fact, I asked my buddy who's the chief of surgery. I talked to him about it. He's one of the best general surgeons on staff. He says, I don't do bowel surgery anymore. Our colorectal guys do, and our surgical oncologists do. So we want somebody who's regularly does bowel surgery.
Now, both of you guys were there at the same time then?
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay.
What we probably do is I'd start the operation, get exposure to things. They'd probably kind of stick their head in, and we'd sort of size up how far out we think this is in the mesentery, how much bowel is potentially involved, and then do the bypass, and then kind of go from there.
Do you think it's, I mean, I know every surgery is dangerous, but...
The issue here is one of, we're dealing with relatively small blood vessels. One option is to simply just ligate the aneurysm, see what's dusky, and then sew the tube, take the rest out. That's one option. We could deal with that. The problem is I'm just not quite sure how much bowel you'd end up losing then. If we can, but what we will probably do is expose things, take a look, see how much bowel we really think is involved, and if it looks like it's a little wedge resection, we may just say, look, why don't you take out the bowel? Mm-hmm. If it looks like it's going to be substantially more, then we would consider dealing with the aneurysm. And when we took the bowel out, we could take the aneurysm out. If we're taking out the bowel beyond the aneurysm, then we don't have to do the bypass.
But you don't know that until...
We won't know that until we really get in there and can see how far out it is in the mesentery and how much of the bowel we really think is. One option is we can put a little clip on it and a clamp on it and interrupt flow and see how much gets dusky. Mm-hmm. But I would be inclined to be prepared to do either resection. I keep doing it like a piece of pie because that's what ends up happening. You end up taking out, it's kind of the blood supply goes out like this, and you end up having to take some bowel, and then the stuff that's left, you just bring it together and sew the two ends together. And then the flip side is, if it looks like we can do a bypass, the vessels are amenable to doing a bypass, we do a bypass and hopefully avoid any bowel resection.
How dangerous is this?
You know, I think there's probably a 5% risk of some serious complication.
Okay.
Probably a 95% chance that things will go well.
Good odds.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
But how about, you know, because I am on Coumadin and then the
What are you on
valve-
Coumadin for? Oh, for your heart valve?
Yeah. I have a mechanical.
Mechanical valve. Then what we'll have to do is we'll have to put you on off the Coumadin on Lovenox injections.
But I can't do the shots.
Why not?
I can't, because my hand from the stroke, I can't do that.
Okay.
So you can do it, you know, in the hospital, but I can't do
Well,
it.
we may have to admit you to the hospital, put you on a heparin drip. That's a possibility.
Before the surgery?
Mm-hmm.
How come you have to put it on the shots before the surgery? And just stop.
We
the
want
Coumadin?
you not to bleed when we operate on you. We have to reverse the effect of the Coumadin, and that takes 2 or 3 days. You know, if you stop the Coumadin, I usually have people stop the Coumadin 72 hours before surgery.
Okay.
Now, we could just have visiting nurses come by and give you the shots twice a day. That's certainly
Okay.
That would be
Do
probably
that.
better. Yeah.
but that's another complicating factor that we have to deal with. And then we're going to want to, you know, start the Lovenox back fairly soon to minimize risk of clotting on your heart valve.
Well, you do that at the hospital, right?
Yeah.